I put a poll question up for the community and it talked about what is your plan or what do you expect your plan to be for housing when you get to retirement? Are you going to have a paid off home? Are you still going to have a mortgage? Are you going to rent or some other option? Well, we got a lot of votes. 1.2K actually voted and chimed in, and over 65% of people say they expect to or have a actual home that will be paid off in retirement. Now, of course, we got some other options. People want to buy an RV and live next to the ocean. Some people are going to be homeless, according to their comments. Some people are going to just rely on God and just have faith that things will work out. 65%, a little bit over 65% of people say they expect to or will have a paid off home. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the five most costly expenses that you will face in retirement. Talk a little bit about my thoughts, what I would plan to do or try to do. And I got some information, some feedback, some people I know who are actually retired and how they're handling the situation. So, hey, let's dive in, tune in, let's get it. I'm Marcus, you're the channel, The Debt Free Dad. We're talking finances, current events, attorney reactions, all that good stuff. I am a licensed attorney barred in several places, but none of those places amount to me being your counsel. So this is not legal or financial advice. I'm just giving my opinion and takes on topics and the current events. Hey, it's entertainment purposes. Always seek a professional in your local area. So let's go ahead and pull up the article. Now, we see number five is utilities, right? It's right on the screen, utilities, but it was a tie for number five. It was actually between utilities and the tie for number five. Y'all would never guess what it is. Take a few seconds to see if y'all can figure out what it is. Spending money on your grandkids was tied with utilities and spending money on your grandkids. I don't know about y'all, but it's probably, I like to think right now because I don't have grandkids. I like to think right now that I probably would spend more on my grandkids than what I pay for utilities, but you never know. But here is always kind of my approach for the grandkids. Hey, it's going to be straight budget spending because I ain't got to take care of no kids because I got grandkids. The best part about grandkids is you can spoil them in one instance, and if everything works out well, they got responsible parents. You can send their ass back home to their parents. So the spoiling them is just a one-time thing. You aren't consistently buying groceries so they can eat all of it. They aren't consistently leaving lights on. You're not consistently buying them clothes because their big ass feet is growing too big and their big toe gonna be sticking out the shoe. So my theory is when it comes to spoiling the grandkids, you know what? Hey, it's gonna be a rarity. It's not a consistent thing. I may them up for spring break or do something, birthday, Christmas, but it's so kind of sporadic and spaced out as opposed to getting how you get beat over the head with expenses for your kids all the time. And like I said, the beauty, if everything works out, Lord willing, you have responsible kids who are good, responsible parents, and you can take your grandkids, spoil them, and then send them back to their parents to deal with. So that's kind of how I plan on dealing with that. Now with utilities, it becomes a little bit interesting because most people in retirement they like the downsize. You have a big ass house when you got all these kids. So when they downsize, what also comes with downsizing? Well, a lower utility cost. You don't have to pay as much. Like I said before, you don't got kids leaving the lights on and the TV on and they flush the toilet, and if the toilet run, they don't shake the handle so it goes down. You don't got kids doing all that, but messing with the damn thermostat when they shouldn't be touching the thermostat. You don't have kids doing all that. You can downsize so you can save on utilities. Now, one thing that I didn't know, but that I have come to learn, I have a few people who I know are retired. They have a flat rate that they pay for their utilities. And the first thing I thought was, how in the world does that happen? I didn't even know that utility companies offer that. Well, because their utility bill is so low, it's actually more favorable for the utility company to just say, you know what? We're just going to charge you $80 a month. and that's going to be what your bill is. Because they may have some months where it's $100, but they may have some months where their utilities are relatively low. Especially, that time of year where the weather is just perfect. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. You don't have to cut off anything. So that is something that you can consider that could potentially be an option when you're dealing with utilities. Downsize and get those utilities cheaper. If you're renting a place, you can actually get a place that has utilities included in the rent. So you can leave the light and the water on all you want. Kids aren't there to waste their utilities leaving the lights on. But the other option is sometimes utility companies offer you a structured payment where it's just a flat fee, and that may be an option for you. So let's take a look at the next item on the list. Number 5 was utilities. Here's number 4. I think we all can kind of guess number 4 was. Hey, it's food. Number 4 is food. People spend on food in retirement. Let's take a look at just the numbers so we can get an idea of what are the numbers behind the food spending and retirement. Okay, this includes items purchased to eat at home as well as dining out. Retiree households spend on average $6,500, so that's $550 a month on food, compared to $8,169 a month for the average U.S. household. Almost 40% of retiree spending is for dining out. Some tactics you can use to save money includes saving money on groceries by clipping coupons, sticking to shopping lists, buying store brands, shopping at stores that offer seniors discounts. All of those things are really great options, but I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. I'm gonna be honest. Like when I'm retired, we're gonna be eating out like we would probably eat out 4 days a week. In retirement, we would probably eat out 4 days a week. Like, even when my kids, I kind of thought this through. Like, when my kids are older and out of the home, I'm thinking our grocery budget will probably be the same because what we aren't spending on groceries, we'll probably just move that to the dining out category. Because, hey, when it's just me and the wifey, we deserve to eat good and we deserve not to have to do fucking dishes and all of that type of stuff. So that is kind of going to be our game plan. But hey, saving coupons, buying the no frills brands, those are all ways that you can save on food, preparing meals at home. But as for us, once our kids out of the house, we're gonna take that grocery budget, we're gonna bring that down, we're gonna move whatever we had in that grocery budget that we just reduced it by, move that over to the dining out category, and we're gonna eat out more at a lot better restaurants and when we aren't getting the kids Chick-fil-A all the damn time. That's kind of my thoughts on that. But food is one of the things that you actually can control. So if you're spending too much on food, that's something that you can dial back. Okay, next up on the list, number 3 on the list. And number 3 is probably one of the most important things. Thank God it's not number 1, but it's definitely up there on the list. Number 3 is healthcare. Healthcare is so important when you reach your retirement age because a lot of times we have to think about this. Most people, their healthcare coverage is tied to their employment. So it's not uncommon when people retire from their jobs or lose their jobs. You know what else they lose? They lose their health care. So they do have Medicare, Medicaid to help people get over the hump, but these things are not without cost. If you're late for signing up for Medicare Part B, D, C, there is a penalty associated with it. So healthcare is something that you have to have. It is an expensive cost. I wanted to talk a little bit about the numbers on healthcare. Healthcare, which includes health insurance, medical service, supplies, and drugs, ranks third as the biggest expense on the list for retiree households, who spend an average of $6,833 per year. That's $569 per month versus the average U.S. household is $5,193 per month. That shows you that health care is more higher for retirees. It consists of 4 parts. They talk about Medicare Part A, B, C, and D. Point blank is you have to have some type of care. The other thing that a lot of people consider as they get closer to their retirement years is long term care. Now, I can't speak specifically for how a lot of people handle this situation. Me and my wife are both blessed, and my father's lucky because he's in this category as well. We are all veterans, so we do have access to the VA. A lot of people complain about the VA facilities and they say it's pretty terrible, but I can tell you from my experience, we always had pretty good things to say about the VA. Yeah, sometimes they're a little bit slow, but they take care of you. They make sure things get done. How we use the VA now, because the VA hospital is literally like right down the street. If I jack up my ankle or something like that, I go to the VA hospital because I know I can go there 24/7. There's an emergency room. I can go there and always get seen. Then after I get everything tightened up, I go see my primary care physician. But the VA is always a good resource. You can establish a primary care physician at the VA. They give you discounts on eyewear. So me and my wife are fortunate in that regard that we will have that VA benefit to supplement the insurance or the Medicare that we may have once we reach the retirement age. So that's kind of our game plan on that. Now, let's talk about number two. Now, number two is something that you 100% can control and it should not get out of whack. And if it does get out of whack, I'm going to just be honest, it's kind of your fault. Transportation. Transportation is a big deal because think about it. Like, I can tell you, my father learned this from trial and error, where it's more advantageous for him to get a newer car that has a warranty on it. Because, my pops is a pretty handy guy, but at 72, he can't get underneath the vehicle like he used to and do all the repairs. It ends up becoming too taxing because when he was younger, he can do it all by himself. So he saves so much money. But now, I mean, it'll take him 2 or 3 days to do something that would have took him one day to do just because he's older. So transportation is a really big cost. Let's talk about the numbers. While commuting expenses will undoubtedly shrink when you retire, not all transportation expenses will follow suit. This category includes vehicle gas, insurance, maintenance, repairs, car rental, leases, payments, and public transportation. The average retiree household spends $7,492 a year in transportation. That's $624 a month, while non-retirees spend $10,742 a month. That's $895 a month on transportation costs. But this is kind of something that I kind of have a plan for, but I've seen how it could play out and be beneficial. Now, I plan on taking the approach that my uh family members took. Some family members, like my mother, prior to her retiring, she knew when she was going to retire. So 2 years before she retired, she purchased a new car. So she purchased a new car 2 years prior to retirement so that she could have that car essentially paid off by the time she retired. I think she paid it off like 6 months, 8 months after retirement, but she knew that that wasn't an expense she was going to carry with her. She wanted to get a car that was new, something she wanted that was reliable, and she wanted to make sure she took care of paying that damn thing off for the most part prior to her retirement. So I think that that is a very good approach. That's probably an approach that I'll probably take as I reach retirement age. Like, hey, I know the wifey is going to retire in 2 or 3 years. You know what? I'm gonna make sure I have the ends saved up so I can get her a car that she wants. It's gonna be a car that's probably relatively new, maybe 1 year old, because I want to make sure it still has the warranty so she can carry it in to get repairs. That'll probably be the only time in my life that I actually buy the extended warranty. So that way, those years in retirement, she has something that she wants, is relatively new. And I think that's just a smart way to go if you can swing it, if you can work it out in your budget. The name of the game for me in retirement is I don't want to owe anybody thing. I don't want to owe nobody shit. I just want to be responsible for says for health insurance, for getting gifts for the grandkids, for repairs to the car, to the house, for fuel costs. That's it. I don't want to owe anyone a payment for something that I already have. So I want to try to avoid, like, oh man, I still got credit card debt. Definitely not going to have that. I don't want to have car payments. I don't want to have any type of payments on anything. but transportation is number two. And number one, we already know number one is going to be good old housing expenses. Hence the reason for the question that we had, put up on the community channel. Housing expenses. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers. Housing, which includes mortgage, rent, property tax, insurance, maintenance, and repair costs, is the largest expense for retirees. More specifically, the average retiree household pays an average of $17,472 per year. That's over $1,400 per month on housing. Housing represents almost 35% of the annual expenditures. For comparison's sake, the average U.S. household spends $20,679 annually on housing. That's $1,723 per month. So how can we make this housing cost a little bit easier to palate? And we talked about some of the things you can do before, and they hold truth to this. If you're in a position to have your mortgage paid off, you're going to be ahead of the game. I'm in one of the highest cost of living cities in the United States. But my yearly taxes is about, if I broke it down over a year, it would be about $300 per month. Now, where I live, they also offer a discount on your primary resident taxes if you are a retiree. So that's something that I can swing. I'm thinking taxes 20 years from now is probably going to be somewhere. We're going to talk about inflation. The cost of taxes is going to go up. I'm going to assume I'm paying somewhere between $6,500 a year for taxes. And if that's the case, it's a lot, but it's something that I could swing. It's something that won't beat me over the head. So for me, I want to try to not have a mortgage payment. I know with my father, one of his goals was to make sure he had a mortgage that was paid off. So he knew that, hey, if I don't owe a mortgage payment, that means I have more money I can put into a pocket and keep. Another thing that you can do is downsize. You can get something smaller. You can sell your home that has equity and buy a smaller property that you can pay for cash and bank the rest. So there are a few ways that you can do this to try to make and ease up that housing cost. But housing is the thing that's going to eat your money up in retirement the most. So of everything on that list, housing, transportation, healthcare, the things that we can really control is we can kind of dictate our housing situation. We can kind of dictate on what we rent, how much, how many square feet. And the reason I brought that question up and I put that post up was because I read a story about a guy who was in retirement and he had everything planned out and he was retiring and he retired and he was renting his home and he was had a rent that he could afford that was easy. Well, what happened? Rent in that area went up something crazy like 35%, and it blasted his retirement budget. And that's one of the disadvantages to rent. I know I had a partner on the channel once, and we were having this discussion over, is your house a liability or an asset? I say it's an asset. He says it's a liability. And my first question was, how long have you owned your home? He said about a year. I said, you haven't been in your house long enough to see the benefits that would qualify it to make it an asset, even though you're paying off taxes and for repairs. You know why? Because I actually did the breakdown of what my mortgage payment is versus what my rent would have been to rent a comparable place that's the same size of my house. And I would have been spending almost $1,100 more per month to rent the same type of place that I'm buying. So that's one thing that if you have a home, even if you're paying a mortgage, it offers some consistency in what you are paying monthly. I'm never going to have to worry about my mortgage payment going up 35%. Unless property taxes go up 35% and my insurance go up 35%. And if it does, we're probably in like a post-apocalyptic zombie infested world. And I'm more concerned about my bullets over my housing costs. But we got to control the things that we can control. Let me know in the comments below, what are your plans for retirement? Hey, and if you like this video, check out the video on the screen. There's going to be more content related to finance and attorney reactions.